When people pay for the exact same item with a credit card instead of cash, they bid roughly twice as much. Same object, same room, same moment. Only the material in their hand changed. Not slightly more. Twice. For the same seat, the same view, the same night. If you've seen the previous video, you already know the diagnosis. Dan Ariely's Predictably Irrational proved that your brain doesn't calculate rationally. It runs on comparison, anchors, and psychological shortcuts, most of which you never notice happening. This time, 3 more of his findings, the ones that decide how you pay, who you help, and what you think you own, plus the one mechanism Ariely himself confirms actually works when almost nothing else does. Researchers Drazen Prelek and Duncan Simister ran a real auction at MIT for tickets to a Boston Celtics game. Half the bidders were told they'd pay in cash, half were told they'd pay by credit card. Everything else about the auction, the item, the room, the auctioneer, the rules, stayed completely identical. The credit card group bid almost twice as much as the cash group for the exact same tickets. Not because they had more money, not because they wanted the tickets more. Something in the method of paying changed how much pain the purchase seemed to cost. Here's the mechanism. Spending activates a real, physical sense of loss, the same discomfort your brain uses to register other kinds of pain. Cash makes that discomfort immediate and visible. You watch it leave your hand, count it, feel the stack get thinner. A card delays it, abstracts it, and disconnects the swipe from the bill that arrives weeks later, attached to a dozen other purchases you've already half forgotten. Less pain in the moment means less resistance to spending in the moment, which is exactly when the decision is actually being made. The card was designed to win that exact moment. This is why an all-inclusive resort feels completely different from a pay-as-you-go hotel, even at the identical total cost. You paid once up front, and the pain arrived and left in a single moment. Every drink and every meal after that arrives painless, so you spend freely because your brain has already stopped counting. Subscriptions and tap-to-pay work on the same principle. You pay once a month, or you barely feel the payment at all, and the natural brake that used to slow your spending quietly disappears. A phone tucked in your pocket, tapped against a reader for half a second, produces almost no sensation of loss at all, by design, not by accident. The shift. The pain of paying was never irrational. It was protection. Before a large purchase, deliberately choose the payment method that makes you feel the cost, not the one that hides it. A few years ago, the AARP asked a group of lawyers if they'd offer discounted legal help to retirees in need at $30 an hour, well below their usual rate. The lawyers said no. Then someone at AARP tried something strange. They asked the same lawyers if they'd offer the same help completely free. Almost all of them said yes. $0 beat $30. Ariely's explanation. The moment money enters a request, people switch into market norm thinking, comparing the offer to their usual market salary and finding it insulting by comparison. Remove the money entirely, and they switch into an entirely different rule book. Social norm thinking, the rules that govern favors, generosity, and helping a neighbor without expecting anything back. $30 was an offense against their professional worth. Free was simply a kindness, evaluated by a completely different standard. You already know this instinctively, even if you've never named it. Try paying your mother-in-law for Thanksgiving dinner. She won't feel complimented. She'll feel insulted because you just tried to convert a social relationship into a market transaction, and that conversion only runs one direction. Once market norms enter a relationship, the social norms rarely come back. This matters far beyond dinner. The moment you introduce a price into a favor, a friendship, or a family arrangement, you haven't made the exchange more fair. You've quietly changed what kind of exchange it is. Companies exploit the reverse direction constantly. A firm that calls itself a family is deliberately borrowing social norm language to extract market norm effort, unpaid overtime, favors, loyalty, without paying a market norm price for any of it. The shift. Before offering money in a personal relationship, ask which world you're actually operating in, because you can't run both rule sets on the same interaction at once. This is the kind of pattern Mentotex exists to find. Duke University runs its student ticket lottery for basketball games the same way every year. More students want tickets than there are seats, so a lottery decides who gets them. Ariely and a colleague called over 100 students afterward, some who'd won the lottery, some who hadn't. Students who didn't win said they'd be willing to pay around $170 for a ticket if one became available. Students who did win said they wouldn't sell theirs for less than roughly $2,400, nearly 14 times higher. Same ticket, same game, same pool of students essentially, split into two groups purely at random minutes earlier by a lottery drawing that had nothing to do with how much anyone actually valued basketball. The instant something becomes yours, your brain quietly rewrites its value upward. This is the endowment effect. Ownership doesn't just change how you feel about something, it changes the number you'd accept to give it up, often by an order of magnitude. You felt a small version of this. A free trial that becomes strangely hard to cancel once it's running. A test drive that makes walking away from the car feel like a loss, not a choice. Retailers don't offer trials to be generous. They offer trials because ownership, even temporary, rewires what you're willing to pay to keep it. It's also why the things sitting in your own garage or closet always feel worth more to you than any buyer is willing to offer for them. You're not pricing the object, you're pricing the loss of something that's already, quietly, become yours. Sellers routinely overvalue their own homes for the same reason. Not because they're bad at math, but because ownership has already rewritten the number in their head before a single buyer walks through the door. The shift. Before deciding what something is worth to you, ask whether you're evaluating it or already grieving the idea of losing it. So, if awareness alone can't fix any of this, and the last video already proved it can't, what actually does? Ariely's answer requires admitting something uncomfortable first. You cannot trust yourself in the exact moment of the decision. Not because you're weak, because you're human, and the mechanisms above run automatically, underneath conscious thought, every single time. Researchers Richard Thaler and Shlomo Benartzi built a program around this single admission and called it Save More Tomorrow. Instead of asking employees to save more starting now, they asked them to pre-commit today to saving a portion of any future raise, money they hadn't received yet and wouldn't miss. Employees who joined went from saving 3.5% of their income to 11.5% in 3 years. They never felt poorer. They never needed extra discipline. They simply removed their future irrational self from the decision entirely. Ariely named this kind of pre-commitment after Ulysses, the Greek hero who tied himself to his ship's mast before sailing past the sirens, knowing his future self couldn't be trusted to resist their song, so he made the decision before the temptation ever had a chance to arrive. This is the piece missing from almost every finance and productivity channel that talks about discipline. They diagnose the same problems Ariely diagnosed, then prescribe more willpower as the cure, the one thing his own research shows doesn't work. So who actually needs this second half of the research? Anyone who's tried willpower, failed, and quietly assumed the failure was personal. It wasn't. The tool was simply never on the table, until now. And what it won't do. It won't make spending temptation disappear, and it won't make you feel different in the moment you're tempted. It simply makes sure that moment never gets a vote. The money you automate before payday, you'll never miss. The subscription that cancels itself the day it renews, you'll never mourn. The investment that transfers before you've even seen the balance, you'll never second guess. Not because you became more disciplined, because you built a wall before you ever needed the willpower to climb it. If this got under your skin a little, good. Subscribe. That's the whole point of this channel.